Eagles rain revenge on the Chiefs. The Ravens are the new top seed in the AFC. The Broncos find themselves back in playoff contention. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. Welcome to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. I'm Adam Wright with Chris Costich, and we have CJ Medeiros back for the first time in a long time. It's been quite a while since you've been on the show. But
hi, CJ.
Hello there.
It has been quite a while. CJ is a senior who is about to graduate fairly soon, a couple of months. So he's been very busy, but Chris and I are here to pick up the slack. So no issues there, but we're covering the Week 11 action and recapping all of the action that happened. And we're going to start with Monday Night Football. The Eagles getting revenge from the Super Bowl, from this previous year's Super Bowl on the Chiefs. So it took pretty much all game for the Eagles to get any lead until, more specifically, about 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Throughout the entirety of this game, Kansas City was leading. And then the Eagles eventually came back with 2 touchdowns from Jalen Hurts. Yeah, I mean, that basically sums up how this game went. But, guys, initial takes on this game.
CJ, I'll let you go first since you're returning.
Thank you. You're very generous. So, let's not mince words. The Kansas City wide receiver, just pass catch room in general, cost them this game. No ifs, ands, or buts. And we've spoken a bit about how CJ Stroud has done more with less, right? But at the end of the day, we've all said he's going to need a wide receiver 1 eventually. We've all bemoaned the fact that Patriots quarterback Mac Jones has never had a true wide receiver 1. And there are other teams that we talk about, like how Jalen Hurts struggled until he got A.J. Brown. Tua struggled until he got Hill and Waddle. Even Justin Fields is looking ever so slightly better with DJ Moore, even though their record's not really improving, but it is what it is. But this shows that even Patrick Mahomes, who far and away is the best quarterback in the league, head and shoulders above everyone else, this shows that even he is not immune to this. His wide receiver room is abysmal. You've got Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, Justin Watson. I feel like there's someone else that I'm forgetting.
Justin Watson was actually released. Yeah,
Wait,
he got arrested.
Wait, then who's 84?
Justin Watson.
Wait,
I meant
touchdown yesterday?
I meant Justin Ross.
Oh, Justin Ross. No, I said Justin Watson.
Okay, all right, then I misheard.
Nah, it's all good. So my point is, but who's going to be your wide receiver 1? None of them. And we saw what happens with that, where you have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who beats his man. His guy's like 5 yards behind him. Mahomes' beautiful pass hits him in stride right through the hands. And my point is, Tyreek Hill, if he's still there and you weren't in the cap crunch, Tyreek Hill catches that ball. Heck, the other one they got rid of there, Mecole Hardman. Very real chance, more likely than not, he catches that ball as well. So this just underscores the need to have a true elite wide receiver 1. And I know Adam's mantra for the past few years has been defense and running the ball. But let this game show you, and Patrick Mahomes, I think, will tell you himself, that area of the league's dead. This is a wide receiver, like, passing offense-driven league. And we've said this for a bit, and the thing is, I keep saying this only because it's true, that even Mahomes is not immune, and that speaks volumes. Then there's Philly. Philly advances to 9-1 on the year. They are just the juggernauts in this league, and they were able to topple the Chiefs, and we might get to them later, but all in all, they might be the new team to beat. I'll keep that brief.
I agree with that. Yeah, the Eagles definitely. This was a great, obviously, morale win because you beat the team that you lost to in the Super Bowl, and I kind of felt like that this should have been more of an Eagles game in general. I was expecting them to be in the lead for the entire game, not the other way around. I'm happy this ended up still being a close game. Was not expecting it to be as much of a defensive battle as much as it was. I was expecting it more to be closer to the high 20s, low 30s, or somewhere not as much as what we saw in the Super Bowl, obviously, but somewhere in a somewhat higher scoring range. But it was crappy weather yesterday. But really, the big takeaway here is the receivers on the Chiefs just suck. Oh my God. It's, back to the point of like the receivers for Mahomes not being great. And this is kind of what Brady was dealing with. Now Mahomes is dealing with it. And Brady obviously did an amazing job in that early part. Ooh. He did an amazing job in that early part of his career with the receiving core that he had. And now we're seeing the same thing with Mahomes. And he's getting by, but how much longer is he going to get by at this point, right? Because the Chiefs receivers have the most drop passes in the league. And one of the big drops coming at a point where it was almost a big touchdown late in the game. So you kind of wonder how much longer the Chiefs are going to be able to ride with this receiving core. Yeah, you got Mahomes, and Mahomes is such a huge game changer, as everyone knows. He's easily top one in the league. And he's going to lead them to probably another deep playoff run, but it's probably going to get halted. They probably won't even make that deep of a playoff run with how bad these receivers have been playing.
The way I look at this game, we can talk all we want about the Chiefs and how bad their wide receiving core is. I agree with every bit of what you guys have said about them. I don't want to give any slack to the Philadelphia Eagles right now.
Oh, definitely not.
Yes, they're 9-1, but that was an ugly victory for them. I get it was against another contending team, but this game kind of shows for me why we never see Super Bowl rematches the very next year. We almost never see it. I think it's only happened once. It was in the 90s when the Bills and Cowboys faced off twice. That's it. And we can see why, because this Eagles team is very shaky. Yes, they have an unbelievable running game. And that short game that they have on the ground, legendary. The tush push, there's a reason why people want it outlawed, because it is such a good play. And I'm not saying I agree with it, CJ. I know you made the face. I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying that's how effective that play is. Look at their passing game. You have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown only had one catch for 8 yards. You were playing from behind the entire game, and you had to lean on your running game. God forbid you face a defense that can actually legitimately stop the run. Then what are you going to do? Are you going to be able to beat them through the air? Because I'm not so sure Jalen Hurts can do that. You failed to do that. During this past Super Bowl. Are you going to be able to do it when it actually matters? Because also, let's be real about that playoff run. It was a joke. The 49ers were done before it even started. In every other game, they just blew doors against them. The only true test they faced was the Kansas City Chiefs, the good Kansas City Chiefs from last year, and they beat them. It was a close game, but you could not win in a shootout game where you actually had to pass. I know Jalen Hurts had a solid game, but a good game isn't good enough if you don't win the game. So that's my takeaway, is that both of these teams are very shaky, and we're not getting a rematch. I know everyone wants to say that, but that's not going to happen. That's my takeaway from this.
Sorry, I didn't know if CJ had something else you wanted to say. Yeah, that's the thing is that the Eagles, both teams are definitely really shaky. I like the Eagles more in general because they have more of a complete team. Granted, Jalen Hurts definitely isn't having as good of a season, but the run game and the defense has been obviously playing a huge part in the Eagles' success. And they showed it last night, obviously. They got an interception off of Mahomes. They were able to force a fumble as well. Not to say that the Chiefs' defense isn't top 5 defense now all of a sudden, because they are. But it's just the fact that the Eagles were able to shut down more. They were able to shut down the Chiefs receivers, and you shut down Kelsey, and who else do you have? Obviously, it's not great. It's Marquez Valdez-Scantling. MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. 3 targets, no receptions. Sky Moore, 2 targets, 1 catch, 4 yards. Kadarius Toney, 2 catches, 12 yards. Your whole offense is Travis Kelce, who had 7 catches for 44 yards. And no one else is creeping up over that 2 or 3 reception mark besides Justin Watson, obviously. And it seemed like they were just trying to force feed him the ball. He had 11 targets.
Right. So God forbid they lose Travis Kelce for the year. And he's already thinking about retirement, according to a couple of reports. So
Yeah.
that is not a couple of reports. He said it. It was from his own mouth. He said, no one thinks about retirement more than me with all the pain that I'm going through. Which is crazy because he doesn't even block. He's basically a wide receiver who has the position name of tight end. It's like putting Devontae Adams at tight end and saying he's the greatest tight end of all time.
Literally.
Doesn't really work. But
I
digress there. That's a whole side tangent. But yeah, I mean, this Kansas City Chiefs team is very shaky. And there's a reason why I was not very high on them going into the season. I didn't expect it to translate to this many wins. 7-3 is certainly a big win for them, but we'll see what happens during the postseason because there are some really stingy teams in the AFC who could really punch this Chiefs team in the mouth.
The AFC playoff picture's wide open right now. Wide open.
Could we see? This is another massive side tangent. Don't give any too much time into this. Could we see CJ Stroud as the offensive rookie of the year, the MVP, and go to a Super Bowl and win Super Bowl MVP? I sound like a massive Texans homer, but this kid is doing things I have never seen from a rookie quarterback.
Probably not, but imagine if he does.
I mean, even this past week, CJ Stroud, 336, he still had an amazing game despite having 3 interceptions.
Yeah. I don't want to give too much time put too much time into it because that's not what the segment's about. But just a thought, just with how some of these teams have come out of left field and started playing well. Jacksonville's really good. Houston, the Bengals are out now that they're done. But the rest of the AFC North is competitive. I don't know. I feel like one of these teams can knock out Kansas City, and next thing you know, they're not in the AFC Championship this year. Just saying. All right, we're going to move on. And as a result of the Chiefs losing this game, we have a new top dog in the AFC, at least for now. We're going to touch on that next and what it means for the rest of the AFC landscape. That's next. This is the Fumblerooski Podcast.
Way down the field to Watkins. Sammy Watkins for the touchdown.
Welcome back to the Fumblerooski Podcast by Power 88 and Secret Weapon Consulting. Adam Wright, Chris Costich, CJ Medeiros with you. All right, so Baltimore Ravens have been kicking ass lately. That is no secret whatsoever. And they are now the top seed in the AFC at 8-3 right now. So Kansas City has been moved down a slot, and for the first time this year, we have a team that is not named the Chiefs in the 1 spot. So it's a very simple question. So they lost Mark Andrews, and they have a long history in the past couple of years of injuries that hamper their season. Is this it for the Ravens? Are they the team to beat right now this season? They've been blowing out teams left and right. What do you guys think? CJ.
All right, fair enough. My gut tells me no, especially with the Mark Andrews injury. Do we have an update in severity on that or no?
There is an outside chance he can rejoin the team at some point this season, but I would not hold out hope. It's not looking as serious as it was, but just with how late we are in the season, maybe by the playoffs.
That's fair. So let's take a gander, right? You said they're blowing out teams left and right, and you're right. The Ravens have been winning. Let's take a look at who they've played. They opened with the Houston Texans, where you beat a rookie CJ Stroud. You just edged out the Bengals with an injured Joe Burrow. That's fair. You lost to the Colts in overtime. You beat up on the pitiful Browns. You lost to Pittsburgh in just an ugly showing. You beat the Tennessee Titans, who are, well, the Tennessee Titans. I'll give them credit here. They blew the doors off of Detroit, 38-6. That's great. Then you only beat the Arizona Cardinals by 1 score. You blow the doors off Seattle, but even still, they're looking a wee bit fraudulent. You narrowly lose to the Browns somehow, and then you just beat the Bengals, who lost Joe Burrow in that game. So I don't know. I'm not sold. And the injury to Mark Andrews doesn't help. And they don't really have a wide receiver 1. I mean, Zay Flowers, I don't think he's that guy yet. Odell Beckham isn't what he once was. Nelson Aguilar maybe pops up here and there, but they're a young team, but I don't know. They have the explosive talent. I mean, it's there. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if this is their year. Because, I mean, Lamar's been staying healthy, knock on wood. But once again, the injury bug might be starting to creep into the picture here. Also, completely, like Adam said, side tangent, Ravens, you've had the same strength and conditioning coach for these many years. Put that man in the unemployment line. You keep getting hurt, and he's still there. Not a coincidence. But that's neither here nor there. But for me, it's the final 6 games that I think that are going to make the Baltimore Ravens. Next, you have the Chargers, who, they are coached by Brandon Staley, but they always put up a fight. That's a game you should win. Then there's the Rams. That's a very winnable game. Then there's the Jags. That could be tough, especially if the offense starts coming around like they did against the Titans. And then you have the San Francisco 49ers, which might be your biggest test on the year, and that's on Christmas Day. You got to perform there. Then after that, you have the Miami Dolphins, who hands down the best offense in the league, the most firepower. You got Tua, you got Hill, you got Waddle, you got all the speedsters. And then you end the year with the Steelers, who don't sound formidable, but come hell or high water, Ravens fans, and if Tuck was here, he'd agree with me. The Steelers always play them tough, and they lost their first game to Pittsburgh. So this game, I mean, there's some what should be softballs there, but don't forget, these could be considered trap games. So it's how they handle these final 6 games that's going to be the big test for me, because there's really no head and shoulders favorite in the AFC for me. I mean, we just got done talking about the Chiefs' flaws. Miami is reeking of fraudulence because they haven't beaten any good teams. You have the Ravens that are there. I mean, I broke them down, and the Jags, who haven't really convinced anyone. Then, I guess there's the Texans, who are led by a rookie. The Browns are 7-3, but their quarterback's out for the year. Denver might be on the up and up, and Buffalo is horrifically fraudulent. So the AFC is wide open. And in fact, when it comes to the AFC, here's my take officially. There's not a team to beat. There is no person head and shoulders on that next level. It's going to be a slugfest. And whoever is going to come out of that division or conference, and goes to the Super Bowl, they're going to be bruised and battered because it's going to be like a 6-team slugfest to get that. And I'm not going to take away from the Ravens, but it's not just that they aren't head and shoulders above everyone else, is that nobody is.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm going to have to agree with that to an extent. I think this is the Ravens' year to be the 1 seed, debatably. I mean, yeah, Mark Andrews got hurt. Cool. You still got a pretty solid receiving core that's starting to really show up now, right? Zay Flowers, the rookie, he's been popping off pretty well. OBJ had a really good game on Thursday night. Lamar had a pretty solid game in general. My problem is that you look at that Thursday night game, it wasn't just Mark Andrews that got hurt, right? OBJ got hurt as well. Lamar got hurt. Lamar ended up playing. They both ended up finishing out the rest of the game, but there's these little seeds now that are getting sprinkled in, right? You never know what's going to happen. We could see, granted, they do have some extra time to rest because of that Thursday night game, so it's kind of like an extended bye week for them. But in general, I think the seeds could be planted for the Ravens to possibly get injured more, right? Get injured with this bug. But looking at the rest of the conference, I'd still say the Ravens are probably going to end up being that top seed. That defense has been really good this year in general. Chiefs, said it before, that receiving core is not good. They're probably going to have to ride their defensive coattails. The Jaguars haven't really impressed anyone. Dolphins, they're still frauds, in my opinion, unless they can beat a team over 500. The Browns, they could still be in the mix. Their defense just has to – they're just going to have to ride the defense's coattails too. The Texans are probably the only team that I can see making a deep run, but at the end of the day, they're probably just they're going to be too young to really make that deep of a run. The Steelers, the only good thing that the Steelers have going for them right now is that they fired Matt Canada this morning. That's the only thing they really have going for them. The Bills, overrated. They're frauds. The Colts, forget about them. They're in the 9 spot. I don't see them really making a run. The Broncos are the only team that really obviously catches my eye in what I think they could potentially be a 7 seed.
We made a meme for them, but let's be real about that Broncos team.
Okay.
They might make the playoffs, but I don't see it, man. This is like they could sneak into the playoffs at 10-7, but they should really be looking to next year if they're looking to contend for a Super Bowl.
Sure, but doesn't mean that they can't make the playoffs this year. Who knows? They could surprise everyone and win the wild card round and lose in the divisional. That's regardless if they make it to the playoffs, it's a win on the season. But looking at the schedule, yeah, you got the Browns. They got a really good defense, but I think the Broncos defense can do a better job at containing a third-string quarterback. The Texans, yeah. I think the Texans will beat the Broncos. Broncos versus Chargers. I think the Broncos are going to beat the Chargers.
I agree. They'll probably sweep the Chargers.
They had the Lions.
Yeah, that's besides the point. But the one team that I do so between the top 2 seeds, if the Ravens are to remain the number 1 seed, so you have the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the only team I see threatening for the number 1 seed. The Jaguars I thought would be a lot better than they actually are, and they probably will be solid, but I don't see them making that deep of a run. Maybe the AFC Championship. I'm holding on to my AFC Championship preseason prediction by a thread, but it's not looking great. The Chiefs. Let's look at their schedule right now. So CJ gave the Ravens schedule, very tough schedule. They have one of the toughest remaining schedules left. Look at the Chiefs right now. They have the Raiders, Packers, Bills, Patriots, Raiders again, Bengals without Joe Burrow, and the Chargers. They have arguably the easiest schedule left. So the fact that they lost this game, maybe they lose one or two more, and that'll be that. But they could very easily hold on to this number 1 seed at 13-4, and they get it back, and the road to the Super Bowl once again goes through Arrowhead. Who is beating Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead? Joe Burrow did it, and a guy who's retired did it. Both guys are not playing in the NFL right now. So there is that. I understand their wide receiving core is very suspect, but I'm not betting against Patrick Mahomes at Arrowhead with Joe Burrow out of the league.
Yeah, and like I said, they still have a top 5 defense. Doesn't mean they can't ride the defensive coattails. We've seen other teams do that. The Patriots offense in 2018 was pretty subpar at the end there.
Yeah.
Even in the beginning of the 2019 season, they were riding the defense's coattails into the playoffs. It's not like you can't do it. It's just the fact that I don't think it's sustainable enough. Yeah, there's other time. The Ravens in 2000s did it, but that was one of the best defenses of all time. This Chiefs defense is not the best defense of all time. So I don't think that they can necessarily ride this defense all the way to the Super Bowl the way that other great teams have.
Yeah, I agree. And, we'll see how it all irons out, but good. My dog's in the room, and I thought he was going to start barking. He opened the door for himself. All right, well, we're going to move on and go on to the Denver Broncos, who just won their 4th straight game and are now in playoff contention. We're going to touch on that next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast. Adam Wright, Chris Costich, CJ Medeiros. All right, so the Denver Broncos, don't look now, but after a 1-5 start, where we thought they would be with a top 5 pick in this year's draft, they'd have to move on from Russell Wilson, fire everybody on the coaching staff, trade all of their best players. Not so fast. They have now won 4 straight. And these 4 games that they have won, they are not victories that you want to sneeze at. So, leading off, they beat the Chiefs. Just beating the Chiefs at all. I know they've been vulnerable. We've established that in the last couple segments. But any team to beat the Chiefs, especially the Broncos, very good achievement. Beat the Packers. Then the Bills and the Vikings. All teams who have been pretty good this year, besides the Packers, but they've had their moments. Guys, what do we think about this Broncos team? What is their ceiling? Do they make the playoffs? Is this just a flash in the pan? CJ, go.
I don't know. You see, momentum's momentum. And I've said many times on this show, what's something I always say? Come on now. I mean, there's the old saying, a win is a win is a win. But I've always said, not really, because there's a difference between a win and a convincing win. Out of all of those games you mentioned, Adam, I do think it's worth noting that of the 4 games that they've won straight, only one, and I'll grant you that was against the Chiefs, only one wasn't a 1-score game, where they beat Kansas City 24-9. because they beat the Green Bay Packers by 2. They beat the Buffalo Bills by 2, and they beat the Minnesota Vikings by 1. And like I said, these are wins, but they're not convincing wins. I'm going to need them to – remember how I mentioned how the Ravens blew the doors off the Lions, beat them like 38-6? That is a type of game I'm going to need to see from Denver. You have the Browns coming up. And look, I know that they're Deshaun Watson list, but that defense is still pretty good. You can put up a good game against them. That'll be impressive. The Texans are another team on the come up, due to CJ Stroud playing out of his mind because he is the best quarterback in that draft. I said it when he was drafted, and I'll say it again. The Chargers aren't a team to sneeze at, but it's doable. The Lions will be formidable. The Patriots should be a slam dunk victory. You have the Chargers again, like Adam said. And I know we're going through the schedule again, but this is like a slightly different thing. And you also have the Raiders, who, by and large, even though their division, should also be a slam dunk. So the way I see it, I'm going to need to see not just more wins, but more convincing wins. I'm going to need them to absolutely slaughter some of these teams. And you have the opportunity to do it. But even if they do make the playoffs, do we really see them beating the Chiefs again? And what if they run to Miami again? Do you think Miami's going to blow the doors off them again? It's very possible. Do they have the defensive toughness to stop the sheer unpredictability that is the Baltimore Ravens offense? And even still, but I don't even see them faring too well against Jacksonville. I mean, it's all doable. And like I said, any of these guys can win at any given time. But like I said, it's horrifically unpredictable. I'm leaning that they can. But a lot of it's just momentum. If they can string a few wins together, and if they do get punched in the mouth, they do lose, can they keep their head up? So these are the questions that have to be answered, because my first instinct says they can keep this going. But my question is, not can they compete, but when they lose, because, it's very rare to win out like your final 6 games. But when they lose, how do they handle it? Do they get their back straight and their head up, or do the wheels just come off? Because we've seen that happen to good teams before. All in all, I think Denver is a team to be wary of, but I don't know if they're in that KC, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Miami conversation just yet.
No,
Chris?
The conversation is definitely the fact that the conversation is if they can make the playoffs. I think it's very clear they're not going to make a playoff run. Just like the reasons you said, they're probably not going to. Lord knows how they would do if they played the Dolphins again. Lord knows how they would do against the Chiefs again. Lord knows how they would hold up against the Ravens or the Jaguars, yada, yada. I just think there's a new energy about this team, right? You could see the way that Russ and Cortland Sutton and all these other guys have been talking in the last few primetime games. There's just a new energy about this team, the way they're talking about the team, the way they're talking about each other. This is a team that has really come around since that week 3 blowout. I think this is a team that can definitely make a run. You're just saying the schedule, how, the Browns aren't necessarily the biggest slam dunk in the world. Texans are going to be tough, but you also got some guineas in there too. Not going to lie. I mean, you look at, we're just saying the Raiders. They should definitely beat the Raiders. They should 100% beat the Patriots. They should probably beat the Chargers. If we were to look at it right now, so they're 5-5. Say they beat the Browns, 6-5. Say they lose to the Texans, 6-6. Say they beat the Chargers, 7-6. Lions, 7-7. Patriots, 8-7. Maybe they sweep the Chargers. So say they sweep the Chargers, that's 9-7. They beat the Raiders, that's 10-7. Granted, they did lose to the Raiders earlier this year, 7-16. But these are also 2 very different Raiders and Broncos teams. Not to say that the Raiders are going to make the playoffs. I just think that the Broncos have a better chance at making the playoffs than the Raiders. With that being said, I'm still going to say that the Broncos are going to make the playoffs. And this defense is a whole different defense from what we saw in week 3 as well. Vance Joseph somehow has turned this defense around. For how much hate I've given that guy, he's done a pretty decent job of holding a lot of these top offenses to very few points. They held Patrick Mahomes to 9 points. They held Josh Allen to they held him to 22 points, but that was a low-scoring game for the majority of it, where they held Mahomes to 8 points. Now, there are some dips in the road, right? You let up 31 to Zach Wilson's Jets. You let up 35 to the Commanders earlier this year. But like I said, this is a very different team, and the most points they gave up was against the Bills, and they only gave up 22 when they probably could have let up 30. And that number probably should have been lower if they kept playing the way they played throughout the entirety of the game and didn't let up a few extra points at the end there. I digress, though. This next stretch, I think, is very doable as well. It's just, like CJ said, it's just a matter of how they react to certain games. If they have a close game against the Browns, I think if they lose narrowly to some of these teams, it's not going to hinder them very much. You see a lot of it with a lot of like championship winning teams and how they do in the past. I'm not saying the Broncos are a championship winning team, but the way that they react to close losses against good teams in games that they probably shouldn't have been competitive in, it's definitely a huge morale boost. So if they can stay competitive in these games coming up, then it doesn't matter if they lose or not. I think it's going to be a huge morale boost regardless. And that should catapult them to a playoff push with all that momentum.
Yeah, the only games that I see them losing, like legitimately losing, is against Houston and the other game that they have. I don't have it in front of me. Detroit. Those are the only two teams I see them losing legitimately. And there could be another upset in there where they don't win a game that they should win. But overall, this is very, very doable. All of these teams, I think they should sweep LA. LA always underperforms, and I think they will not disappoint when they underperform here. Raiders, Patriots, Browns, I don't care. If you don't have Deshaun Watson, I'm not going to take you seriously. Still not doing it. This is, if they, at the very best, they can finish 10-7. I think 10-7 is a solid ceiling for this team, which is playoff caliber, which is very, very good considering they were 1-5 literally a few weeks ago. So this is good. This is good for them. They may not win a Super Bowl, but at least they could build on this next year and try to go for a Super Bowl, because you cannot waste a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback who you just threw money at and draft picks at, and then just say, you know what, let's trade him away. Let's hit the reset button. No. If you see some winning here, if you see some fight in this team, invest in it. Trade for some good wide receivers, get some good defense. This is a good stepping stone for them. But I think we can all agree on this show right now, this team is not a Super Bowl team.
No.
Playoff team?
Absolutely
yes.
not.
Playoff team? Yes. They can make the playoffs at this point. And I think if they don't, it would be a disappointment. There's no moral victories here, especially with with the chips they have pushed towards the middle of the table. And I think we forget that a lot. So no moral victories. You don't make the playoffs. Don't blow it up, but look at this season as a disappointment. Oh, well, you did really well this year. You started 1-5. You shouldn't have started 1-5 to begin with. Win a Super Bowl with this guy. He has a ring. Stop giving this guy the free pass. As Sean Payton says, stop kissing babies, Russell Wilson. All right, guys. We're going to move on. Next, we've got Chris's trivia and top 3, bottom 3. That's next. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. Welcome back to the Fumblerooski podcast. Adam Wright, Chris Costich, CJ Medeiros. We have moved on to our weekly trivia segment for week 11. Chris, take it away.
Today's trivia. I want you guys to name me the top 10 yards per game leaders passing.
This
Who goes first? Who does
top
what?
10?
Top 10.
Okay.
3 strikes each.
All right.
What is CJ Stroud?
I saw that. I saw you typing. I heard that.
I'm literally on another window, and I'm not doing what you think.
You better not be researching, but yeah, CJ Stroud is number 1.
I'm not. Here,
Top 10 in top 10 in yards per game. Give me Tua.
Tua is number 2.
Go.
I feel like Mahomes is up there.
Mahomes is up here. He is number 7.
Okay. Give me Sam Howell.
Sam Howell is number 4.
Yeah. All right. What about Jay Herbo?
Herbert is number 9.
Oof.
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins is number 3 despite having not played the last 3 weeks.
Brock Purdy.
Brock Purdy is number 6.
Hold on.
Okay.
What positions are left now? You got to tell us.
Missing number 10, number 5, and number 5. Yeah, you guys.
Russell Wilson.
Ripping through this. Russ is not on here.
Yards per game. Oh, it's what's this? Is Jared Goff on there?
Jared Goff's number 5 or number 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, number 5.
Give me Dak Prescott.
Prescott's number 10. Jesus Christ, you guys do that. All right, that was too easy. Give me the rushing yards per game leader.
Oh, you
wait. Who got? Hang on. Who got?
You guys
more?
You guys
we
got
got 5 and 5, right?
You guys both got it equally.
We got it equally. All right. So then we need.
No one got a loss there.
So maybe we need to keep it to an odd number so that.
Well, and I thought Adam got a strike. Whatever.
I did get a strike, so I guess CJ can win if you want.
Wait, did you get a strike?
Yeah, I thought he.
I answered. I asked Russell Wilson, and he.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So yeah, CJ did win.
Wait, what? Who's there and which ones did I say? We got to figure this out.
Jeez, this turned into a crapshoot already.
This is math, buddy.
So CJ, you said Stroud.
There's one.
And then
I said Stroud. I said Stroud. I'm trying to think. I said Goff. I said Purdy.
Listen, I got a strike, so that's the tiebreaker.
Yes. I mean, regardless, Adam lost.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But maybe in the future we could do like a point system. Like if it'll be like 10 in reverse. So like if you get number 1, that's 10 points. If you get number 2, that's 9 points. Right? Something like that. I don't know. Something like that. And maybe we could do it. Maybe it could be an odd number, so it could be top 5.
I thought this was fine because Adam got a strike anyways, and I was just being an idiot and wasn't paying attention.
That's okay. I lost anyways.
Believe me, I forgive you.
Adam is still winless, I think.
I've won
forgot
one
you
game,
keep track.
I don't know. I've stopped keeping track. Top 3, bottom 3 for this past week. Top 3: Eagles, Jaguars, Broncos. Honorable mention: the Rams and Giants. We'll start with the Eagles. Pretty simple enough. Eagles getting their Super Bowl revenge on the Chiefs. Having their way with the offense, really. The run game still looks good. Defense still looks good. I'll take it. I mean, still worried about Jalen Hurts a little bit, but said this before. It's been more of the run, more emphasis on the run game this year. Jaguars blowout win versus the Titans after a very bad blowout loss to the 49ers. I'll put you on that list any day of the week. Broncos, 4-game winning streak right now. And like I said, this is a much different energy that's coming from this Broncos squad. I'm liking where the Broncos are going. It's good step up for at least next year, regardless if they make the playoffs or not. Going to the honorable mention, the Rams. They're not making the playoffs, but that doesn't mean that they aren't going to be a good spoiler team down the road, and they showed this. Granted, still a divisional game against Seahawks, so divisional games can usually go either way, but that's still a perfect spoiler alert right there, you know? Seahawks are supposed to be in playoff contention. Giants, division win and a good game from Danny DeVito all of a sudden. And granted, they beat up on a bad Washington defense in general, but I think the Giants defense has shown some flashes, and they did obviously this past week. They picked off Sam Howell 3 times. So I'm a little on about the Giants defense. I like them a little bit. They've shown, like I said, they've shown flashes, but all in all, the Giants are still a bad team. So I don't think they'll necessarily play the spoiler alert as much as the Rams probably will. But, for sake of locker room morale, I'll give the Giants that honorable mention. Thoughts from you fellas?
I was actually shocked how well Danny DeVito actually played in that game.
Right?
He went from not throwing a pass against the Jets to absolutely lighting up that Commanders secondary.
3 touchdowns, no interceptions.
So I'll give him credit where it's due. And no major complaints from me. I agree.
Yeah, I'd say I agree with this list pretty much, especially since Danny DeVito was sacked 9 times. That's actually insane. 9 times, but still threw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah. I always love a quarterback who gets his teeth kicked in and still ends up winning games. That shows toughness to me.
Yeah, and in general, this week was a weird week. I've kind of felt like there wasn't a lot of games that really stood out to me in general, right? So, I don't know. This was a tougher week for me to really kind of determine who was really good and really bad. Bottom 3. Chiefs, Jets, Bengals, honorable mention the Seahawks and the Steelers. Chiefs, easy enough. Their receivers still suck. Defense is the only thing that's really holding them together right now. The Jets, they only put up 6 points, got to the point where they finally benched Zach Wilson, and it sounds like Zach Wilson isn't even going to be the backup. He's probably going to be 3rd string at this rate.
I know Tim Boyle's the starter. Who's now 2nd string?
I think I just saw an update about. Well, Joe Flacco got signed to the practice squad, I think. Unless
I thought he was going to Cleveland.
Yeah, he's going to Cleveland. I was thinking the wrong team. My fault. But oh man, I just saw it too. Trevor Siemian. Trevor Siemian's coming back. That's who it is.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Bengals. Lost to your divisional rival, trying to stay in a playoff spot, and you lose Burrow. I mean, usually I don't hinder a team for losing their starting quarterback, but in this case, this was just such a big week, and for all that to happen in one, just really shot down their playoff hopes so quickly. Seahawks, to the honorable mention, Seahawks, that offense is dead. Oh my Lord. This offense has really been lackluster in my opinion. I mean, yeah, Geno Smith didn't throw an interception, but now you've lost Kenneth Walker. Lord knows if he's going to miss this next week. Geno Smith's a little shaken up, so he said that he's still good to go for Thanksgiving Day, but we'll see how that ends up hindering him against a really good 49ers defense. And the Seahawks are still on that line of being in and out of the playoffs. So this is just a bad loss in general. Steelers, they only put up 10 points. Granted, it's a good Browns defense, but you lost to a 3rd-string quarterback. And the only thing good that happened from the Steelers from this past week is that they fired Matt Canada this morning.
Yeah. A move that took, in my humble opinion, way too long.
Yep. And in the however long that he was with the Steelers, they never put up more than 400 yards of offense.
I believe
And Kenny Pickett hasn't thrown a touchdown pass in Lord knows how long. General thoughts.
One thing I do want to say about these Seattle Seahawks, I don't know. I feel like their fans, your nightmare's coming true. Is that we said this offseason after they extended Geno is that can Geno keep it up? Was he a flash in the pan or is he legitimate? It's starting to look like option one is becoming the frightening reality. That is all.
Adam, you're muted.
Yeah, it really does look like it was a flash in the pan, but he's still been okay. And I think this Seahawks team's probably going to make the playoffs. And even Geno Smith, the one that we actually know, I don't think we would expect that from even him. Like what we saw last year was a Pro Bowler who was Russell Wilson, like the real Russell Wilson, possessing the body of Geno Smith. That's what we got. I mean, look at the statistics. It was literally what Russell Wilson does. So what we're seeing is not really the Geno Smith we know, but he's certainly not been what he was last year. I don't know what happened last year. I think we're all confused and scratching our heads from what happened last year with that Seahawks team. That came out of left field. But he's been fine.
I think just the Linsanity run just ended for him. That's all it was.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. They still have a lot of season left, and they're 6-4 right now. So give it some time, and I still see them making the playoffs. So I would give it some time.
Yeah, I can live with that. I mean, we can quickly look at the schedule real quick if we want. If I can freaking pull it up. If it'll let me pull it up. Jeez, what's going on here? All right. So obviously they had the 49ers on Thanksgiving. Just write that down as a loss. Cowboys, I think the Cowboys are going to beat up on them because Cowboys beat up on average to bad teams. And Seahawks are an average team. 49ers, they're going to get beat by the 49ers again. Maybe, just maybe, this is probably one of those division splits for all we know. And that's the thing. These next 4 games are not great for the Seahawks because then the 4th game, they have the Eagles in Philly. Last 3 weeks of the season, they have Titans, Steelers, Cardinals, which should be a little easier. But for the next 4 the next 7 is just going to be brutal for the Seahawks. Yeah.
It's going to be tough, but I think the Seahawks are a fairly competitive team. Again, I do not think that they should have committed to Geno Smith with this long-term deal. I know it's 3 years, but that's a lot of money for a guy who's been a career backup. He's not that good that he was last year. And by committing to him, they can't really move on to a franchise guy who they take in the draft or acquire through a trade. They can't really do that anymore. So, and also they're too good now to be a lottery team that gets one of those quarterbacks. So they're kind of screwed either way. So that's something to look at as well. But we are against the clock. Any other thoughts before we end the show tonight?
Nope.
Not really.
Yeah. Shaq Leonard. Guys, that guy is released. He will end up on a contender soon. That is one of the more shocking things I have seen from this week. All right. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. We have all new episodes out on Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast or our TikTok at FumblerooskiPod to keep up with our podcast and latest coverage on the NFL. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.